Welcome to another episode of Going with the Flow. I'm your host, Lucas Cellino, and today we have my friend Greg Strauss joining. Greg, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
Greg, so you're with 716 Realty Group. Why don't you just start off by explaining what is 716 Realty Group?
Sure. So 716 Realty Group is my extension of 13 years in real estate. In 2017, we trademarked the 716 branding, which really helped take off in a lot of ways. And fast forward to now, we have a vertically integrated sales brokerage, short-term rental business that we do management for, and long-term management.
Yeah. And so property management, I know you do both long-term and then you also do Airbnbs. And you obviously then also sell homes, help people find homes. Is there one that you prefer more than the other?
So that's a great question. I think, I love helping people buy their first home or, buy their $1 million home, of course. But at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to more relationships. I've had some clients who have bought their first home, then they buy their upgraded home, and then they buy their lake home, and hey, can you help us manage it and Airbnb it? Sure. And then like, well, I want to buy a 4-unit or a 6-unit, and they're buying more investments. So it turns into more of a relationship play, all in. Clients for life, I always say. Like, I'm happy to be here to help them. So I can't really pick like one's my favorite. Yes, like sales and, being a top 100 salesperson in Buffalo is great. So I still do the sales all the time, but it's sales across all of the verticals. It's like, what are you thinking? What do you want to do next? And kind of adapting what the client's needs.
Sure. So I know like in the plumbing world, right? Like every day could be completely different based on weather. Sometimes we could forecast it, like, if we know it's going to pour out, it's going to be slammed that day. Do you guys have any sort of trends? Do you know what you're walking into that day? Is there some sort of seasonalities? Yes. Now, I don't want to ask what a normal day looks like, because I'm assuming it's different, but I'd love to get your insight there.
Yeah, there's definitely no 2 days that are alike. Very similar, Yesterday, I was out in Sunset Bay with a new listing coming up on the waterfront, right on the beach. Tomorrow, if it rains, we're going to be, bailing out basements and probably calling Cellino. So, forecasting-wise, we definitely do look at the weather. Specifically, nice weather, like as we're in summertime now. If the Airbnbs are busy, we're making sure air conditions on early. Everything's ready earlier because, like, you can't just have somebody show up to a 90-degree in the Airbnb management business. If it's really nice for an extended period of time on the long-term property management business, we're like, okay, now the grass is getting out of control, or even worse, like we had 2 weeks ago, it rains for a week, grass gets out of control once it gets sunny. So like you can forecast a little bit, but it's, I think one of the benefits of our business is it's always challenging. There's no 2 days alike.
Yeah, no, certainly. So I grew up doing real estate too. I started flipping houses when I was 17. I have a couple Airbnbs, and what I quickly realized was people are coming in for like 3 days. So from the time they get there to the time they leave, they expect everything to be perfect. Long-term rental, like, yeah, the hot water goes, like, you got a day to get that like set, some sort of reasonable time frame. There is no reasonable time frame when it comes to short terms.
There's not. I'll tell you what, I look at people like we're doing short-term rental management. I've grown up going to Cuca Lake and the Finger Lakes for 30 years. And my family's always rented places. We've always dreamed of owning one. That could be another episode maybe, but we almost did. Anyways, the short-term space is really interesting, and I don't know how people used to do it. That's my point. Like now with the technology, at least, like the nice thing, Airbnb management is very much, you're basically a hotel, right? Think of you check into a hotel, there's somebody at the front desk, you forgot your toothpaste, they got you. In the Airbnb business, we're not there with them, but the technology has enabled us to, we're using DoorDash or Instacart, like, oh, you don't have paper towels? You needed the iron that you can't find that we know is there, but you can't find it. Like, iron will be on the front doorsteps in 20 minutes. The technology has definitely made it possible for us to manage. Remotely. We manage a lot in Buffalo, Ellicottville, the Finger Lakes, but down as far as West Palm Beach, Florida. And, that becomes, it's a back office function. And then you need people on the ground. You need maintenance and cleaners. But the maintenance and cleaners you need on the ground, they're not running over a roll of toilet paper, though. So technology's made it better and a lot easier, but it is a hospitality business.
Yeah, no,
sure.
Certainly. I know, like, the one thing that when you're saying technology, I'm thinking like door codes. Like back in the day, you had to go and, pick up the keys. And I know, like, from our experience, a lot of people are checking in late at night and all these, wacky times where it's like, getting that door code set up goes a long way.
People come at all times. Really, it's just crazy how like they're asking questions at all times. I mean, that's a big thing too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we're
How
you know
quickly respond.
we're a 24/7 business. Really, honestly, like we have if you call us at midnight, you're going to talk to somebody in Buffalo. And we've built in the infrastructure to do that, but it takes. I mean, it takes an army of people that are watching our systems, watching Airbnb and our integrated property management solution. But it's definitely a business that takes time, energy. It's nights and weekends, but again, we enjoy it to ultimately help our customer who like might have wanted to have that lake house or that ski house or both. We'll help you buy it. We'll help you manage it, and then ultimately, if the customer gets to enjoy it a few weeks a year themselves, and it's a good investment, it's a great investment strategy. I look back to COVID, for example, and it's like you could buy an 18 unit apartment complex, and that's great. It cash flows well. The question I always ask somebody is, would you go stay there? Is that your investment strategy? You think about COVID and you're like, hopefully we never have that again. But hey, look, the same thing. You could go get $1 million lake house and maybe, if the world goes belly up again, at least you can go sit on the beach.
Yeah, oh, for sure. That's a beach house is definitely my near future dream there. My parents just got one down in St. Simon's Island. They're Airbnb-ing that out, and what I realize is they're on St. Simon's Island, and there's like this property man. I'm so jealous of them. So they could drive golf carts to take out the garbage, and like all the houses are right in this one area. Like, man, what an easy system. I'm so jealous. Where we're spread out, Buffalo, Niagara Falls. Ours are pains.
Yeah, you guys cover like 90 miles and they're covering like
Yeah, 4.
900 feet.
Yeah. Oh, it's wild.
Just a system's built. Their system's built. I mean, they've been there for a long time. I definitely think it'd be cool to go into more vacation markets for sure, but it has its pains and pleasures as well.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Again, the expectations follow. So we do this podcast. It's always on. A lot of my coworkers come in, a lot of vendors. You're one of our bigger customers, and we don't work with a lot of property management companies. We just refuse to, as the communication is usually terrible. They're usually not in their game, and you guys do an awesome job. So one of the few companies, it's like, I guess in my world, it's they could either be the best because you're going to bring a good amount of work, but generally it's all these headaches. So it's shocking me how well you guys just have your systems together. What's the secret?
Well, the secrets have names. It's people. It's process, right? It's process and people. So Marilyn, Janice, April in our office, they're constantly communicating, coordinating, and I've explained to them, Cellino does a great job of letting us know when you're coming out. We get the text alerts, and that's helpful. So when we get that, we're also letting the tenants know. So then, first of all, we don't have to be there, but you guys are great at like talking to the tenants, showing up professionally, well dressed, and getting the job done. So the secret really, I think, is our team and your team working together. When the teams work together, it gets done well, and our people are there dedicated to it. That's really the key.
Yeah, we don't hide from it. We know we're never going to be the cheapest company. It's just impossible to keep and retain, quality techs to begin with. But you put a lot of focus on that back office, and you can see that we do the same, right? That's
100%. I always tell our clients, like, look, at the end of the day, like when we're even onboarding somebody for property management, we have to, like, we don't just accept anybody either. I think it's as we grow in our businesses, both with your business and mine, it's like you got to be selective. Do we align fundamentally the way we think? And the way that I tell our clients is like, look, we can probably get a job done cheaper. We can, like you said, maybe even have a day or two to get it done. It depends on what it is. Ultimately, it comes down to you got time, quality, and price. Pick two. And, maybe not being the cheapest is okay when, again, we have single family rentals that go for $6,000 a month. When we want somebody to get over there and get to Orchard Park and fix that hot water tank on Christmas Eve, does it matter what it costs? That guy's paying $6,000 a month. So, we trust you guys to get over there, get it done. And I know even if I call you, I'm like, hey, like this is like our number one client. That is our biggest price point rental, but I know you guys will get it done because you have the team. So it's important to not always just lean on price.
Yeah, no, I love that, the three analogies that you break down there. I do think there's always relatives, so right? You say prices matter. I know you don't mean there is a level to it. So it's like for us, it's like, there's a cost of doing business, and you got to figure out where that right price point is. But also know, like, to me, yeah, we want to have a fair price for what we're offering. And we don't want to be, we want to be this company that is quality, that has good people. I always fear when we hire somebody new, it's like, all right, we need to make sure that this guy not only can do the work, but like we're going to let him go into a customer's home. And that's a big fear. And so we might hire like a really good tech that we know is knowledgeable, but it takes a while for them to be a lead. Just, I don't want this guy going to some random house. We got to get to know him a little bit. So managers ride with him. He'll go with other techs, but we'll talk with them. It's obviously there's cost to it, right? It's this guy could be out, producing revenue, going to these jobs, but let's make sure that we slow it down a little bit and make sure everything's in order.
Yeah, I have a story about that, but I think one of the first things is, our clients don't give us carte blanche. Like we have a allowance where they eventually we would call them if the price is higher than a certain threshold, typically like $1,500 or $2,500. So like we're not just going to go spend their money. But I agree with you. It's some jobs are a little bit more, some are a little less. There was a conversation I actually remember having with one of your techs, because typically when they get there, if they find something of bigger price point, like they'll call our office, and they might even just call me. The office will direct them to me, I should say, just to kind of like, okay, let's talk about it. And I remember one of your texts was like, it's like, okay, like the job's ready to go, and this is a testament to him. He's like, hey, like I can get this job done. And it's going to be blank. I don't remember how much it was. And I was like, that sounds like a little bit much. Like, are you, just like, let's talk through it. So we talked through it together. Like he's in the tenant's home, he's in the basement working, and he's like, oh wait, you're right. Hold on one second. I did something wrong, and this is okay. Like, how's this? And he fixed it, right? Like on the spot. And I was like, get the job done. Go ahead. He was taking care of us as a client, but also, we're all learning together. I'm not gonna be like, no, don't do it. Get out of there. We're gonna call somebody else. Like, hold on. Doesn't that sound a little crazy? And he's like, yeah, you're right. It does. I forget what it was. So it's a team effort.
What happens when you can't get a hold of that owner? So you got a threshold, and they you can't get a hold. I'm sure that happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so knock on wood, this doesn't happen too often. So typically the way that it works though is for us, we have a threshold of spend, but we can go beyond that in like life or death situation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a hot water tank may be life or death, but a furnace and no heat definitely could be. So we do have some protocols in place. I mean, obviously to call you guys and put in a new furnace is not a small expense and not something you might do on Christmas Eve. So we have, built in some backup plans, and we've worked with tenants. The worst case scenario is to relocate them to a hotel. The short-term solution typically has been, we have a stock of space heaters. We'll get you through the night. I mean, Buffalo, when it's cold,
We've been there.
You got to keep them warm, but hey, we can get here in the morning kind of thing. And as you know, with winter, you have blizzards and snowstorms that can make it even harder. So most of our owners are very responsive, but at the end of the day, like they're ultimately giving us permission that in a life or death situation or a situation that could present real hardship, emergency, we can go beyond that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even, one of the hardest things we often run into is trying to explain to a homeowner like what actually is wrong and getting their trust around it. Now there's like a whole nother layer to this. Do you guys ever have an issue with that?
Well, I don't know if I'd say hold on. I guess what I think, I'm wondering if
I'm thinking instead of talking directly to the homeowner, we're now talking to you guys. You guys are now talking to that homeowner.
Gotcha.
Does that complicate things at all?
I think, the nice thing is, like you mentioned, you've been in real estate for a long time, and so have I. So I can try to explain it in a way that makes sense. I have a relatively decent real estate knowledge. One thing I do think that's helpful, and I've noticed some people give this back to us, is like there's new tools available to them, the technology, right? They can go on to ChatGPT or Claude and say, explain this to me. Frankly, I even instruct my staff to do the same, to explain things to tenants or to owners sometimes in a way that like now you have all this information at your fingertips. And if people are armed with good information, they normally can make a good decision. So, I can imagine you directly with the homeowner, they may just really not understand, but almost for us to have like a step back approach and have a little second to analyze it gives us an advantage there. So we can make sure they have the right information and they can make a good decision. And a lot of times, I think even sometimes your texts say, hey, here's the fix now, but also, and actually I love this, they're like, but here's the next step if you wanted to really, like we fixed the eyesight on the boiler today, but we really should replace all this and come back down the road, and we got an estimate for that. Well, now I can go to my owner and say, look, we solved the problem, but also we have long-term planning we should do to make sure we actually take care of this and decide what the right strategy is. And once they have that information, then they can plan.
Yeah, no, and that's a big deal in real estate, right? You're looking at cash flow month to month. So, what's the expected expense? And, we can never tell anybody how long it's going to go. It's a question we get asked all the time is how long, what is the lifespan of this furnace or this water heater? And I always say, I've seen water heaters go in, 6 months and I've seen them last 40 years. So somewhere in between there. And, I'm sure some have lasted longer and gone sooner. So it's impossible. I try and narrow it down, but at the end of the day, too, like what we've realized is water heaters, even furnaces now, like it's becoming like the dishwasher in the oven, where they're not really made to be repaired anymore. Parts are damn near impossible to get, hard to find, more of a headache, and manufacturers making them differently now.
We're in a consumer world where it's almost design failure, right? If there's a new iPhone coming out in fall, like you're just sure going to run slower coming up to that time. I feel like that's a whole thing everybody jokes about, but definitely, I mean, appliance repairs, same thing. Sometimes just buying new is better. I think the important part of this, and like kind of leaning on my background, before I did real estate, I was actually in accounting, and when I talk to our owners and say, hey, like there's this pretending future expense coming up, the real question is, hey, and I wonder if you guys even see this towards the end of the year, like, hey, you've done pretty well this year. Let's do some expenses that improve the property and also provide you, some expenses to offset your income so you're keeping it balanced. And every property could be improved every year a little bit. So like trying to make that plan and strategy for like when do you do those large capital improvements is important.
Yeah, so for us, the end of the year is it depends. Like it's all weather bearing, but normally it's getting cold. It's December. It's the start of like the freeze season, which is actually slower than heat. So believe it or not, more people, and you might even see this, more people complain about the house not having AC working than the furnace not working now. It doesn't make sense to me. Years ago, a lot of people didn't have AC. Now it's like if they don't have AC, it's life or death. And furnace, like, oh, we'll leave open the oven, which you shouldn't do. But um, we've noticed that.
People like their comfort for sure. Comfort is everything. And then, it's funny because I would say across all of our properties, probably only half of them even have air conditioning. But, it's like, uh, we're in a world now where everybody's wants those luxuries, and I think you can get through a little bit of a cold night. It's 55, put on a sweatshirt, but when it's 95 out, everybody's like freaking out. It's like, hey, we should enjoy this. It's Buffalo, New York. We get this like 3 months a year.
I'm with you, but at the same time, I'll join them in saying if I'm at the office and it's just humid and hot, like I don't think I'd work in an office if I didn't have AC.
Oh, if I'm at the office and it's hot, I'm going home.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's maybe outside a little breeze is fine, but sitting in a hot office that's muggy, that's hard.
Yeah, the commercial work, I guess I could definitely see that being a big focus of that. Yeah, those are the guys that they need it working and they need it working now.
So last question I'd love to end with, I love the entrepreneurial story. I knew you started off in accounting. We've been friends for maybe 6 years, around there, 6 years or so. How did you get from accounting to real estate?
Accounting to real estate. Well, I got my accounting degree, kind of followed the path of, my father owns a business, my mother's an accountant. So I started with the accounting path, saying if I want to own a business, I better understand bookkeeping, et cetera. So went to college, got my accounting degree, graduated, and went to New York City actually for 5 years. Worked on Wall Street, doing international taxation, and then I switched over to the trading floor. I worked at Morgan Stanley. It was a great time. 21 to 26, living in the big city. Definitely don't regret it. Tell anybody to do it that would want to. Any city, by the way, but New York was great.
Yeah.
I could be home for a family event on Saturday and be back in New York on Sunday. It's an hour flight. But anyways, so I knew I didn't want to do that forever, though. I was, 3 screens, chained to a desk at that point. I came back to Buffalo, honestly, just quit that job and came back to Buffalo and said, if I can make it in New York and work hard, then I should be able to do that in Buffalo. And, I always had an eye on real estate, was kind of looking at it, started talking with some friends, and we just kind of said one day, let's jump into it and see what happens. So that was like the late 2012, and in 2013, we kind of threw out the first shingle.
What was the first? Did you buy a house first? Did you get your license first? Did you manage a house? What was
so I didn't own a home. I didn't own a home. I didn't manage any homes. I had nothing really to do with homes, to be honest. I was actually living in my friend's house, renting a room from him, and just kind of really bootstrapped it and said, well, I was lucky that I was at the age of like late 20s. Friends are starting to talk about houses, and I think one of the biggest things there is when I looked at real estate and getting into it. we just started the company. My friend had a license. I had an accounting background. Like, let's see what happens. I ended up getting my license very quickly, and our friends were buying their first time homes. You know, they're buying $150,000 starter homes, and they're trusting us. And then next thing you know, they're telling their family and their friends, and it's kind of just snowballed from there. And that really took off. And that beginning part to getting into the business, I didn't buy a house for probably 8 years of being in real estate, which is kind of crazy. I wish I bought way more back then at those old 2013 prices.
Oh yeah.
But that's the real estate gods, right? The good time to buy real estate's in the past and in the present. So ultimately, got into the business, started selling, started building a team, started now building the divisions to be integrated for clients' needs, and ultimately, I think we've come a long way. We have a long way to go. I'm excited to see what the future brings.
Yeah, no, and I've met a bunch of your team, and just like you, stand up people, care about a good process, and you guys take a lot of pride in what you do, and I think that's important, and I think that's why we align so well. I lied. I do have one more question that you don't have to answer because I know it's going to put you on the spot, but I have to ask everyone in real estate. The forecast of the Buffalo, or, let's say Western New York housing market and forecast of interest rates. 5 years down the road, what's your take?
Okay, forecasting the Buffalo real estate market. So I'm going to get out the crystal ball. And honestly, I think if you're going to look at interest rates, I'll start with the interest rate question. I think interest rates are probably going to stay about the same. I don't see. I bought a property with a 2.5% interest rate. I got lucky. It was timing.
It's unheard of.
Unheard of. And it's again probably a great story for another day. But I got lucky. That's not going to happen again. If you're trying to time the market and try to time interest rates, like that's not the one thing to focus on. Interest rates are going to be there. Stories of our parents saying, "Oh, it was 18% interest rates. Yeah, prices were lower." But I think you basically assume interest rates will probably stay about the same. Looking out even 5 years, I think the world's an interesting place, and I don't know how we get out of all of those situations we're in, like the cost of capital, people's debt load. The potential reduction of jobs by artificial intelligence, and we could get into all of that. But I think interest rates are going to stay about the same. I'd say, in the 5 and 6s at best.
The only argument I have to that one is it would be quite the stimulus if they did drop interest rates and everybody's going and refining.
So I agree with you. I'd love to see that. Right now, my question is, who's paying for it? So
I can never figure this out. That's beyond me. I figured you with the accounting, you might have another insight. But.
Well, it's accounting and it's capital markets, right? Who's going to just say, hey, we're going to stimulate people to go spend money and drop the interest rate? Ultimately, somebody's getting less of a coupon on that debt, so they have to be willing to take less of a return on their investment, which as investors ultimately is a little bit hard to do. It'll be a political play, not a fair free market play. Okay. So it'd be a political play, not free markets. However, on the price side, I think that we're going to see Buffalo real estate continue to appreciate. Not in the appreciation I've seen really like the 2015 to 2025, like boom, doubling in value. I mean, like I got people pulling out 150 grand and they didn't do anything to their house, out of a sale. But I think the prices will continue to rise, not at that rate. But we still have a lot of things going for us. Fresh water, 4 seasons, proximity to Canada, so businesses and international, business travel. You're close to New York, Toronto, you can get anywhere. I think long term, it's nice to vacation places. It's nice to have vacation rentals or other properties, as a Buffalonian to go see. But I think, ultimately a lot of people still have their roots here, their families here. And if you're from Buffalo, it's really hard to get away. That being said, because so many people are holding back inventory and like bringing their single family rentals to us, restricting inventory because they want to hold that low interest rate, there is low inventory in the market and there's a lot of people that want houses. So when supply is a little bit low and demand's a little bit higher, I think we'll see that keep going. Do I think a house that's $400,000 right now will be $600,000 in 5 years? Probably not, but I think it's going to steadily appreciate to maybe 500. It's definitely possible because ultimately, people are going to want to move. They're going to want it. They're having families. They're growing. And I think people are really ready to enjoy Buffalo year round.
Yeah, no, I love that outtake. Similar on the price increase. I think that's like probably a commonality between most of the real estate guys I talk to.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of clients. Like, I have a client right now from New Jersey coming to Buffalo. People just closed on a house from Texas. They're kind of like, I'm done with the big city. I'm done with the hustle and bustle. And they're coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I guess moral of the story, buy your house in Buffalo with some 1-6 Realty Group and then get your vacation rental with them and they'll manage it for you. Right?
We're here for the whole life cycle. Get your first house, get your second, get your vacation property, chip in with family and friends. I own one with 4 people. Get your lake house, your ski house, whatever you'd like. It's up to you. The plan is customizable.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I tell everybody, like, we got a lot of young guys, some young girls at Cellino. It's like, you guys got a great job. You got a great career. AI is not taking this away. I want to see you guys get some asset value. So then we'll start talking around. I'm like, look, build in that management cost. It's whether you're doing it or not, make sure it cash flows with that management cost. Because trust me, it gets hectic. You might not know what you're in for. So even if you plan on doing yourself, great, make sure you got that built in.
100%. Look, I'm not going to pretend to be a plumbing, heating, and cooling specialist. I trust the team that does it. Same thing with the management side. Unless they want that to be their full-time job and taking care of it. I run into a lot of people who are like, I'm sick of the phone calls. I'm sick of the headaches. I'm sick of the accounting, the maintenance. Like, build that in down the road. Maybe not your first year or your second year to somebody getting started, but definitely plan on transitioning that for quality of life.
Sure. All right, Greg, before I let you go, we do this segment called What the Flush. And what we're looking for is a moment where you walk in, maybe it's a house that you're managing or a house that you're selling, and you go, what the flush just happened? Does anything come to mind? Any stories stick out to you?
One specifically that probably happened a couple of months ago. Tenant first reached out and said, "Hey, my toilet's not working." No big deal. Sounds good. Can you send us some pictures? Tell us what's going on. Give us an idea before we get there. Okay. So he sends us a picture, and not only was the toilet not working, but the toilet that he just finished using was now in the bathtub. So it had backed up into the white bathtub. And let's just say that's a what the flush.
Yes, that is. Yep.
I knew we needed to bring a gun to a knife fight on that one.
Yeah, that's a smelly situation for sure.
I don't think your tech was too thrilled, but we got through it, and that's what matters.
All right, Greg. Well, hey, thanks again for joining us. Pleasure having you on and pleasure working with you.
Thanks for having me.